Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. It is Zena Krogadal, your American Dreammakers host. I am extremely excited for our guest, Steve Rizzo, today. He is going to be on. And you guys, if you are listening, if you are watching, please give Facebook StreamYard permission to basically allow your comments to show on StreamYard because we'd love to see your comments when you're here. And also, please be sure to share this out. Steve has an amazing message to share. He is so inspirational and motivational. So I want to make sure we get his message out. But first, let me get this video on. Hello again. It is Zena Krogadal on Friday, a wonderful Friday to that matter. So I am so excited for you to meet Steve Rizzo, a motivational speaker, author who harnesses the power of laughter and positivity to transform lives. With a background in comedy, Steve captivates audiences with his infectious energy and genuine passion for helping others. Through his inspiring journey and practical strategies, he empowers individuals and organizations to embrace change, conquer challenges, cultivate a positive mindset. Let's join Steve as he guides you on a transformative journey to unlock your unlimited potential and create a life filled with joy, purpose, and success. Hello, Steve. How are you?
Boy, that's one heck of an intro. That's a lot of pressure.
It's all true, though.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. It's so good to see you, and it's so good to be on the show. And I'm so glad you're doing this. This is great. This is so cool. And by the way, quite a few people are talking about how well you're doing with this, so you should know that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. It's just a great forum to get have a guest on and to spread their message or whatever it is they've gone through in life, and if it helps one person, then you're a spark that ignited change in someone's life. So.
And you would absolutely know because you have been absolutely changing and transforming lives for quite some time now. So tell us about yourself here, Steve. We'd love
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah, I as you said, I did stand up comedy for 25 years. I headlined comedy clubs and theaters and colleges throughout the country. I had my own Showtime special. Been on a lot of late night TV stuff, and middle of my comedy career, I noticed there was some kind of a shift started taking place, and I started realizing there was more to laughter than just laughter. There was more to comedy than just making people laugh. And started realizing this was so weird too. It's actually I didn't even intend to talk about this, but I think it's a good idea. There were times when I was on stage doing stand up. There could be 600 thousands of people in the audience. It didn't matter, and I was in the zone. And I'm making people laugh their butts off, and I'm doing it. But at the same time as I'm doing my stand up, there's something going on within me, and it's the weirdest feeling because I felt like I was in two different realms. Okay, and the other part of me is going, wow, what a trip this is. I am making all of these people laugh, and in this audience there could be people experiencing some major challenges in life. Maybe they're going through a divorce, maybe they're having financial difficulties, maybe they or a loved one are inflicted with some kind of illness. But for that hour or hour and a half that I'm on stage, their challenges, their problems, whatever they were, didn't own them. Why? Because they simply allowed themselves to take time out to laugh. And then I coined the phrase, laughter is the pit stop in the rat race of life, and that it gives you enough emotional fuel and repairs to get back into the race again. But the initiative and the proficiency by which we allow ourselves to laugh comes from what I call, and it's in all of my books, from what I call your humor being. And everyone is on this planet, I believe everyone on this planet is born with a humor being within them. Unfortunately, most people go their entire lives never knowing they have this power, let alone how to tap into it and make it work for them. Your human being is of your higher nature, your authentic self, your true self, the God part of you, if you will. and it's the part of you that always brings out the best in you, especially when times are tough. And what your humor being can give you more than anything else is peace of mind and emotional stability. So having said that, and I delved into that, I started getting into that psychological, spiritual aspect of humor. And then I started reading a lot of stuff, and all that reading started going to Napoleon Hill and going to Tony Robbins seminars and going to spiritual seminars, learning more about people's mindset. And no matter what book I read, no matter what seminar I went to, I've always thought that it was humor was the one thing that more than anything else, that was the great bounce back factor. As a matter of fact, about my brother when he passed away. He's the biggest inspiration of my life, and I did the eulogy, and I roasted him. I roasted him in the eulogy. I honored and roasted my brother for about 35 minutes. I think I'm the only person in the world that ever did a eulogy that got a standing ovation. But it was the humor that made it so personal. It was the humor that was bringing tears to people's eyes, and it was. I realized by doing that um, when someone passes on, you realize there aren't any goodbyes when you're holding on to the humor aspect of that person. There's only good memories. The spirit moves on, and we all move on in turn. It's just that it's important for people to know that they have this part. It's just that right now we get so caught up in the crap of life that we're not aware that we can tap in to this part of ourselves. So I started thinking about your sense of humor as a common sense success strategy. And I started developing that. And then all of a sudden, I started developing another common sense success strategy, then another one, then another one. Then I started really getting into some really intense stuff. Another common sense success strategy is to start your day with an attitude of gratitude. And as I'm doing this, and I'm doing very well as a stand-up comedian, but another part of me is going, you should be doing something else with your life. And it was after about 25 years, I was at a Tony Robbins seminar. The entertainment industry was very, very into me at the time. I was living in LA part-time and living on Long Island because I was married, the other part of the time, but you had to be in LA to audition for TV, and came so close to sitcoms and movie deals. My roommate was Drew Carey. And it's funny how life works, because he knew I was delving into this, what people call this self-help thing. Uh, he said to me, "How did your audition go?" I said, "It went pretty good." He goes, "What do you want to do for dinner?" And I said, um, "You do what you want." I said, "You know what, Drew?" I said, "I'm not doing this anymore." I said, "I'm going home." I said, "I can't do the stand-up anymore." And he knew, because I talked to him about being a motivational speaker, and I knew nothing about it. So he said, "How can you do this? You're so close." And that's when it hit me. It was like that little bell goes off. And I said, "It's funny you should say that." And he said, "Why?" I said, "How can I be so close to something that I don't want anymore? I need to be doing this." He goes, "But you have no idea how to do it." I said, "I will find a way." And I called my wife up when I was married at the time, and I said, "I'm coming home." And she understood. It was the most frightening thing I ever had to do, because I was very good at it. It's not that I left stand up because I wasn't good enough. I was leaving it to do something I knew nothing about, but I knew I was supposed to do it. I felt it from the very core of who I am. And that's when I started creating more of the common sense success strategies and started writing books. And as a matter of fact, I have to tell this story too. This is cool, because I had no idea I was going to say any of this stuff in your show, but this is the way my brain works. And I think you know that. You see me on a few different podcasts.
I think it's great.
Yeah, well, this is a cool story. Um, so when Drew and I had a major argument, because he was a close friend and he was concerned. He really thought there was something wrong with me. As a matter of fact, my manager sued me, and my agent and publicist were begging me to seek help, to see a psychiatrist. And I told them, "I'm seeing one. How's it working?" And the only one I got it was my wife. So I made a reservation a couple of days later to fly from Los Angeles to New York, JFK Airport. And that whole week I prayed. I mean, I really prayed. I said, look, I know in my heart I'm supposed to be doing this, and I believe that you're calling me to do this. I said, you got to send me a sign. I said, because I have no idea on how to get into this speaking business. I don't know anyone in the business. So send me a sign that I'm doing the right thing. Send someone my way that can help me. And I get on a flight from LAX. I'm sitting in first class, and I'm on my way to New York. And that's when it hit me emotionally. And I felt the tears. And I thought, maybe I am going out of my mind. And I'm sitting next to this very distinguished man who was in a three-piece suit and a very well-trimmed gray beard and a thick gray hair, a little heavy set. And he's in a three-piece suit. And he's staring at me, and he's staring at me. And I'm going, oh, shit, God, please don't let him talk to me. I don't want to talk to anyone. I didn't think I'd be able to handle it. And finally he goes, excuse me, I'm really sorry to bother you. And I'm going, oh, man. I was polite. I said, yes. And he goes, I know I've seen you somewhere, and I don't know where. And I had just finished my Showtime special that month, about a month before. And was very popular. A lot of people saw it. And I said, you probably saw me on Showtime. He goes, oh, yeah, you're Steve Rizzo. I said, Rizzo. Goes, oh, yeah, man, my wife and I think you're hysterical. And we're talking for about 20 minutes. In the middle of the conversation, he says to me, I'm really sorry. But he goes, I just sense that something's not right. Are you okay? And I took a deep breath, and he saw the emotion in my face. He said, that's very perceptive of you. I don't want to do stand-up anymore. And he thought I was joking. And he started laughing. And when he saw the look on my face, he stopped laughing. He goes, talk to me. I said, I want to do something else. I said, and there's something else that I want to do. I know nothing about, but I know I'm supposed to be doing this. I know I'm supposed to be doing this. So I said, as a matter of fact, before I left to go home to my house on Long Island, I said a prayer, and I asked for guidance. I said, if I'm doing the right thing, you need to send me someone soon, someone that can help me get into this business to let me know that I'm doing the right thing. I need help. So he said to me, he said, oh my God, what is it that you want to do? And I said, I guess I want to be what you would call a motivational speaker. And he starts laughing. Gina, he's laughing his butt off. I mean, laughing, and he's hitting me in the leg. And he's a big guy. He was hurting my leg. He was laughing so hard. And I'm thinking he's laughing at me like I'm an idiot for leaving a promising career as a comedian to do something I know nothing about. So he goes, well, what is it? I told him what I wanted to do. I said, I want to be a motivational speaker. And he looked at me, he goes, my friend, he goes, I'm the answer to your prayers.
Wow.
I said, what are you talking about? He said, my name is Al Perinello, and I'm the president of the New York chapter of the National Speakers Association. And I just went, whoa. So this man really was the answer to my prayers. It just so happened that next weekend, there was a workshop. The National Speakers Association back then in the mid 90s was very powerful. Huge, huge. So they had 3 workshops a year, and they had a big convention where there were thousands and thousands of people at the convention. And he asked me to go to the Omni Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the workshop where there were about maybe 800 to 1,000 people. Now, the people that go to these things are agents that book speakers. And it's all how-tos. You go into these workshops, how to create a video for your speaking career, how to create a website, and how to do this. Here's the thing that you're going to love this. There I am thinking I'm going to be light years ahead, and I don't know anything about the business. When he introduced me to the people, 90% of them already knew who I was because they either saw me at the theater in their hometown or the comedy club, or they saw my Showtime special. And these are high-end people, members of the board of the National Speakers Association. So I schmoozed. I got along with everyone. Then when I get home, there's a message. Steve, this is Vanna. I'm a part of the board on the National Speakers Association. And we were so impressed with you at the workshop. We'd like to know in 6 months if you would like to be a general session speaker for a couple of hundred of the top speakers in the country.
Wow.
how to add humor in their presentations. And I was so excited. I called up. I said, I'd love to do it. And Zena, I knew nothing. I didn't have a speech perform ready or nothing, but I had 6 months to prepare. So I did it. It totally killed. 6 months later, I did it, and there were thousands of people. I nailed it, and all they didn't have phones then. They didn't have iPhones. They didn't have anything back then in the mid uh, um, 90s. So all the speakers agencies and all the high end people, the publicists, and everybody was giving me their business cards. My speaking career catapulted way faster than my comedy career ever did. And there I was at one point thinking, I'm going to be so far behind. And there was a part of me going, this isn't going to work. And there I was starting off almost at the top already.
That's amazing.
It's follow your heart. That's all it is. Follow your heart. Follow your authentic self, the God part of you, however you want to call it. Follow it. You can't go wrong. And that's living proof right there.
Yeah. And as Tim's story says, it's a God idea. You know, you had
Yep.
a God idea. You knew
Yep.
this was your purpose and your destiny, that comedy was great and it built a skill that others didn't have. And then you were able to know to apply it to something that you knew in your heart, somebody, it was going to reach a bigger impact.
Yes. Yep. And the answer to my prayer was that guy Al and my friend Lisa Perna, who has a beautiful book out called Touched by Prayer. She says you received the God wink. You received the God wink. That's what you get, a prayer answered immediately. You know, you don't have to wait. It was on the plane. And you know what the amazing thing is, Zena? I could have told that guy, excuse me, I don't want to be rude, but I just can't talk. You're gonna have to honor my space and my time. And I came this close to doing that. And the reason why I bring that up for you, for your viewers, is that quite often in life we pray for something and you don't know how that prayer is going to be answered. Most people have an idea, well, it's just going to come. No, you don't know how it's going to come. That guy was the answer to my prayer, and I could have squashed that seed possibility from that prayer being answered with a bad attitude, with my negative inertia, with my woe is me story that I was feeding myself, with the fear that was consuming me. As soon as I acknowledged him, though, that was the answer. That's my point, though. You just never know. You always have to be aware. Your mindset during prayer, before prayer, during prayer, and after prayer, that mindset has to be there, that it's going to come to you somehow, some way.
I love that. I love that you shared that. I love that you weren't planning to share that, but it was just coming out of you. So that's awesome. And I really love that you mentioned how humor is so important, and your humor being, I love that you've got that as a term, and that you've really produced many concepts around that. Laughter is absolutely the best medicine. I
Yep.
mean, the Bible mentions that. It's been proven, I think, in neuroscience as well.
Yeah.
And so, how awesome that you took a gift that you had already, which was humor, making people laugh, and then you took it to another level that not all comedians would be able to do so, but yet you were able to do that. I applaud you.
I thank you, and you nailed it. You're right. I was able to do it, but again, it wasn't me that did it. It's like the God part of me knew there was a plan for me before I even knew it. And throughout my speaking career, I have been blessed because something opened up in me when I became the speaker. All venues, I was keenly aware of observing people, and I've been blessed with every common sense success strategy that I give people when I present. It could be 200, it could be 8, 10,000 people in the audience, because sometimes my audiences are that big. But the point I'm making is that I always give the strategy, like unleash the power of your humor being. That's a common sense success strategy. The other one, as I stated, every morning start your day with an attitude of gratitude. That's another strategy. But for every strategy that I give, and there's about a dozen of them, I have a story, a true story that exemplifies the strategy. And what makes it even more empowering is that 95, 85% of the stories that I use to exemplify the strategy are from famous people. So when you're telling the story of a famous person like Rodney Dangerfield, he's one of my stories. My relationship with Christopher and Dana Reeve 5 months before he passed away, he's the attitude of gratitude story. My brother Michael, which is become the leader that you were meant to be. That's my brother Michael's story. Embracing change is my brother Michael's story. So um, when I speak to groups, it's just I have that because, and I think we all have stories like that. It's just a lot of people aren't aware that wow, that's a lesson that needs to be heard. I should tell this to other people. Maybe they can learn the same lesson. So that's what I do when I speak to groups, and all those strategies are in my books. And humor being is one of the most important ones, as I stated. I remember 9/11. That's another thing I have. I have a keen memory, and it's not me, it's my authentic self part of me. Um, Even in 9/11, it was 3 days after 9/11, how important laughter could be. It just made me, it hit me. And it was 3 days after 9/11, and there was a reporter. It was such a solemn moment. It was silence. There was smoke and debris still coming up from the wreckage. And she's looking at firemen who are all full of soot and just bandaged all over the place, and they're exhausted and ready to go back in to look for remain bodies or survivors. And she's looking at this one fireman. It's a big guy, and you couldn't even see the facial features of his face because he was filled with soot. And he had a bandage around his head with a big blood stain on it, and his arm was in a sling. And she just goes up to him. You can see the emotion in her face, and she goes, "Excuse me." And he looked at her, and she said, "How is it that you have the courage to go back in there to do what you're doing in your condition? You look exhausted." He took a deep breath. His chest went out. He went up to her. He grabbed the microphone, and he said two things: "I'm a fireman, and I'm from New York. That's all you need to know." And everyone started laughing and applauding. I grant you, Zena, that laughter only lasted 5 to 7 seconds. The applause stopped immediately. But here's my point: sometimes a couple of seconds is all you need to catch your second wind. Laughter, your humor being, gives you that couple of seconds every single time. Every single time. And that hit me like a ton of bricks when I saw that. So, of course, that's an experience that I witnessed. Of course, I'm like I just did with you. I told the story. I do that when I give my speeches. It's in my books. That's the best way to learn is from life's experiences.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. That's a great story. You have so many great stories, Steve. Like we could just go on all day, but we don't have all day, right?
Well, what about my needs? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So you've written several books, but you've got one most recent,
Yeah.
Conversations with Bob. Can you tell us about Conversations with Bob?
Yeah, I can. This is the main reason why I was put on this planet. This is my mission for the rest of my life. The strategies that I talk to you about are all in this book, and way, way so many more. Way, way so many more. And Zena, can I see you too? I like talking to you. That's cool.
Yeah, you
That's
got it.
cool. Thank you very much. You're very good at that. I couldn't see. That's something I can't do. This well. Let me put her up, and then I'm so glad you're in control
Ken
here.
taught me. Ken taught me.
Yeah, of course. I was just going to say, I figured that, right? He's a good teacher, though. This book took me um, 7 years to write. And it's funny how life works, because just when you think your life is just going on an even keel and everything's good, something is going to happen eventually. It usually does something. It's not being negative. It's just that, we should wake up every morning knowing that you're going to be confronted with a challenge. Maybe it's a little one, but maybe it's something astronomical. You should go through life knowing that, not thinking about it when it's going to happen, but no, it could. But there's something within you that can meet the challenge head on. That's the important thing. So I started writing this book at the lowest point in my life. This book took me 7 years to write. Every time I thought I was finished, Bob who is God in the book, told me, "No, you're not. I'll let you know when it's finished." It was very frustrating at times. And I wrote it. I started writing it after a divorce, after 34 years of marriage. That was my decision, which made it even worse for me because my wife is the best person in the world. But I knew that something was missing in my life, a very spiritual high part of me. This might sound corny to some people, but this is it. Would have been voided, would have been missing if I didn't go out on my own. I spend a lot of my time by myself now, and I have been since the divorce, which is 7 years now. And I started writing it, like I said, and I moved. I was so upset about what I did, but yet knowing I did the right thing, it was a conundrum. You know, you're doing the right thing, but if it's the right thing, why is this hurting so much? And I went into a depression. And I got up one morning because my wife and I were still living together, and I had to figure out where I'm going to move. And I woke up and something said, "You got to move to California." Now I'm living way on the East Coast in Long Island. And I told my ex that that's where I'm going. I'm going to California. And she said, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you? Please see someone. I'll go with you. You can't do this." And I did. I have friends in every state in this country. I made a few phone calls. They got me an apartment in Marina Del Rey, and that's where I lived for 2 years. And I knew I had to face whatever demons were consuming me to get my life together. And it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning on Venice Beach. I'm by myself, which is not a very safe thing to do in California to walk on Venice Beach by yourself. And it was early summer, and I I lost it. I was yelling, cursing at God, cursing. What is wrong with me? I want you to answer me. I insist. I dare you to show yourself. And I just went. If I actually know what it's like to go out of your mind. I went out of my mind at that moment at the beach. I lost it. If anyone would have heard me, they would have dialed 911 and said, "There's a maniac on the beach." So I sat down in the sand like a little kid would, and I just sat there for a while, and I got up, and I was sobbing, and I controlled myself a little bit, and I took a step, and I said, "What the hell is wrong with me, and what am I doing here?" Then I took another step, and I heard something within me say, "You know what's wrong, and you know why you're here. You're just too caught up in your drama to find the answer." And I went, "What?" And I said, "Where is this coming from?" Not knowing yet where it's coming from. Took another step, asked another question, another answer, another question, another answer. And I'm going, "This is absurd." I get into my car and I drive really fast to go to my apartment in Marina Del Rey. Took up my laptop, pen, and a paper. And that's how I write, both laptop and pad and pen. And I'm writing. I ask another question, and I ask another one, then another answer, another one. And it wasn't too long that I realized, oh my God, I'm talking to God. I'm talking to a higher part of myself. The answers are coming out like you wouldn't believe. I was there for hours, hours. I was exhausted. I left. I passed out on the bed. I didn't even get undressed. I fell asleep on the bed in my clothes, woke up about 9 hours later, and I looked to see what I wrote. And I swear to you, I didn't remember writing 90% of it. I didn't remember. I said, "What is this all about?" And I started again. And it was after a couple of days that I realized, whoa, I'm writing a book. That's when my imagination kicked in. That's when my sense of humor kicked in. That's when my gift of storytelling kicked in. And I named the two characters. I called God Bob and Bernie. Everyone has an inner Bernie and everyone has an inner Bob. It's up to you your whole life as to which entity you're going to talk to. Who are you going to listen to? Bernie resides in the negative zone where problems get blown out of proportion and challenges turn into emotional havoc. And Bob, well, he's the antithesis to the firewall of fear and negativity that your inner Bernie insists is real. Bob has all the answers to your questions and the solutions to all your problems. All you have to do is to learn how to connect with him. And this book shows you how. And I'm not going to tell you how Bernie and Bob meet or how Bob gets his name, but Bernie offers Bob common sense success strategies that will turn his life around, that come from the Bob part of him. And if you adhere to these strategies and make them a part of who you are, life will not only become easier, you will be happier and more successful personally and professionally. And that's what the whole book is about.
Wow. That's amazing. You had a tremendous breakthrough
Yeah.
at the bottom of the pit.
Yep.
Basically, you hit the bottom.
Yep. And I still had that communication with Bob. I still now it's just like an everyday thing. When I'm feeling in a low mood and I'm saying, what's going on here? And I actually hear Bob say, you know what's going on. I go, yeah, I know. And if thank God I live by myself, because people would think I'm a freaking maniac. As a matter of fact, last year I was, these are all cool experiences. Last year, I love going through nature. I'm always connected to that higher part of myself when I'm in nature. And there's a beautiful park very close to where I live. I went for a walk last spring and I'm looking at this tree. I love trees. I talk to trees. I know it sounds weird. And this tree is gorgeous. I mean, it's just, and I'm talking to Bob and I'm saying, man, this is a beautiful creation. This really is. I said, wow, thank you for this. And I'm really feeling the emotion of this tree. And I go to take out my phone to take a photo of the tree. And Bob said to me, there you go again. And I said, what? Now, this isn't really a real voice that I'm hearing. It's a feeling that I'm getting. But I have the ability to turn it into a conversation. And I said, what? And he said, there you are doing what you always do. You're admiring something. You were feeling the God part of you. You were so in tune with what I created. And then what do? You take out your camera so you can have an experience a year from now, totally voiding the experience and the emotion you're feeling now. You just nipped that wonderful feeling in the bud before you were able to feel the full magnitude of that experience. Put the phone down and take it later. And I went, okay. You get that? You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
be
it amazing?
still.
Yeah.
Be still and
Yeah.
know I'm God.
Yeah.
Unity.
Who's going to argue with him?
Yeah.
And he was right. And I went back to that same feeling that I had to really appreciate it. Then when I allowed that emotion to take hold and I embraced it, then I took out the camera. But far too many people let those sacred moments go by. Because you're thinking something in the future, or either that, as you're looking at it, you're bringing some crap that happened to you in the past, or you're thinking you're in a hurry and you have to be somewhere, or there's so many things that we do to ourselves to ignore these sacred moments in our lives.
Yes, that is for sure. There's so many moments that we want to rush and wish away, even the frustrating moments of our lives. I was just talking to a single mom the other day, and she was talking about the frustrations that she was having, with her children, and just wishing that moment away. And I said the same thing. I said, well, even in those moments, those are precious moments that you'll never get to have back again. Be in the moment with your children, even though there may be times you cry and you're just like, I'm so tired and exhausted.
Yep.
Those moments you can't get back, and you learn. There's so much learning that you have in those times. And so I'm really glad that you are sharing this, because that is so true.
Oh, that's a good point you made too, because that's what happens first thing in the morning, especially with mom and dads that work. And they have these little kids saying, Daddy, watch me, Mommy, watch me, watch me. And they're going, not now, honey, not. Oh, that's good, honey. You nailed it. You'll never have that moment again. You'll never have it. And we let sacred moments go by. And as a matter of fact, in book 2 that I'm writing now, Conversations with Bob 2, Bob comes to earth in the guise of a person in every story. And there's one particular story where someone who's in their early 30s is so caught up in their job, so caught up in trying to make a living, that they're forgetting what it's like to live. And this person who is the super of the apartment building that he lives in. He's Bob. They become close and have this conversation. And he said, well, you just did it again. And she said, what are you talking about? And he explained to her that you just let a very important moment go by. And they have this conversation that live in the moment. You're so caught up in trying to make a living that you're forgetting what it's like to live. And she realized it and something clicked. And anyway, that was the lesson in that story. And we all do it. It's one of the biggest um, sins that human beings commit on themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes, that we just let those things go by and we just don't even, yeah, think twice about it sometimes. So you're right. Paying attention to what's deep inside, what is that God voice saying to you, and then acting on it out of faith.
Yep. Yep. And don't be afraid to ask. What do you mean? What do you mean? And let the feeling elaborate itself to you. Let that uh, it's the coolest thing to do. It's the coolest thing to do. You're having a conversation with, I call Bob. You can call Bob if you want. You can even say God if you want. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it Xena. You can call it whatever you want. It's there. It's there. You know.
So that moment when you decided you weren't going to do comedy anymore, you're telling Drew Carey, I'm going to be a motivational speaker. You said that was the scariest moment of your life because you didn't really know how it was going to happen,
Yeah.
and yet you pushed through knowing that that was your destiny, that that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
Can you, I guess, maybe even elaborate a little bit more for those who right now probably might be struggling with that very crossroads? So they're at a crossroads. They know they're supposed to do something, but there's this fear. So
It's
how do you get over that?
it's really tough, but the key is you follow your heart. You can't go wrong. Follow your heart. And even if it means that what it is that you're trying to do, but you still need a job to support your family while you pursue this other thing, there usually is a way. Sometimes I don't know, it depends on the circumstance, but investigate in full detail that I can still have my job and pursue this other thing. For example, maybe somebody wants to do something where it requires that they need a degree. They want to teach. Let's just say they want to teach, but they're working for the post office now, but they want to be a teacher. Let's just use that as an example. Well, it might not be easy for you, but you can go to school at night. Get your degree as you're going at night. At least you have that wonderful feeling that you're doing this. You don't even have to take that many credits. Don't put pressure on yourself that it has to be done right away. Just do it. Take summer classes, take evening classes, do whatever it is that you have to do, and do it step by step. Once semester's over, then you go, wow, I just did that. I did pretty good too. Let me do this again. Before you know it, 4 years go by, you have your bachelor's degree. As a matter of fact, you could probably get, even part-time, you could probably get a bachelor's degree in 3 years if you want it. But that's just an example. Just follow it. What stifles most people is that they talk themselves out of it. Well, I got a family and how am I going to support them? And I respect that. But sometimes by focusing on what you can't do, you don't make enough room in your essence of who you are. You don't make enough room for what you can do and how you can do it. You've already conditioned yourself to find reasons why you can't. And if that's what you're focusing on, you won't. And it hurts as you go up later on in life. I had a woman in one of my workshops who wanted she was 64 years old and she broke down and cried. She goes, I knew I could have been in the theater. I could have acted. I could have done this. And I never did. And she said, now my husband's gone, my kids are grown, and I'm by myself. And I looked at her. I said, you live in New York City? She said, yeah. I said, there are so many acting teachers out there and classes that you can take. It's countless. It's countless. You could take it. Well, why would I want to do that now? I said, well, why wouldn't you? She said, do you know how old I'll be by the time I even get established to do that? I said, yeah, the same age you'll be if you don't do it. Start it. She started it. It took her not even a year, and already she's got a job in the theater. She's
Wow.
got a job in the theater as an associate, as an assistant for producers and doing this stuff. And she's still taking her acting classes. And Every now and then they still have dinner theater in the city, and she's doing some bit parts in dinner theater. So she's following it, and she's doing it. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to become a star to do what it is you want to do. Just do it. It's the doing that really counts anyway.
And that's great advice that you said you be the same age if you don't do it. So
Yeah.
why not just keep moving, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to get to a certain point in your life and go, I should have and I could have. I think the boldest thing I ever did, and it, it, it took me years to find out that I really did the right thing by leaving. When I started finding out who Stephen Francis Rizzo really is, when I started connecting with this part of myself that I honestly believe I would not have, because I would have been in my comfort zone because my wife did everything for me. She was the motivation behind the motivator. She was, and I just knew, you know what? I was too comfortable here. There was a higher part of me saying, you could stay here and you could probably be very, very happy. And I probably would have been, but I also would have felt as I got older, something was missing. And now I'm at a place where um, I know it was the right thing. And as I say, and this is a pretty powerful statement, sometimes doing the right thing can be the most painful thing you could ever do.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
did it. So
Very, very profound for sure to state that, because sometimes we think doing the right thing is going to feel good. That's how we
yeah,
know. I mean, that's what a lot of people use as their measurement.
yeah, yeah. And as far as doing the right thing too, with making the transition from comedy to speaking, that lingered for a couple of years, even though I was still I was getting to be a very successful speaker. I was getting a lot of work, and but every now and then I'd look at I'd go to the movies or see a sitcom. Now, my opening acts, Zena, Chris Rock opened for me.
Wow.
Seinfeld opened for me before
Amazing.
they were famous. Okay, before they were famous. Rosie O'Donnell, Drew Carey opened up for me. So when years went by and these guys were becoming the big stars, every now and then I would sit and go, I wonder where I would be had I stayed. Would I have had my own movie? Would I have been that incredibly famous? I'll never know. But so for a couple of years, it kind of like gnawed at me, but now I'm in a position where I am that spark that ignites change in so many people's lives. There's nothing better than that. It has nothing to do with fame. That's how in tune I am with myself now. It's not fame is if you are, that's great. If you're not, well, that's great too. One of the things I teach my grandkids, and I wish I would have taught my son this, but he gets it now. I tell my grandkids, everyone's always telling you to be the best, to be the best. No, no, no. What's important is for you to be the best that you can be. Be your best. And by doing that, if that leads to you being considered the best in your chosen field, well, that's great. And if not, that's great too. The important thing is just do your best. And only you know if you're doing that or not. And
Beautiful.
sometimes doing your best means making tough decisions,
Hmm.
sacrificing.
Yeah, that's very, very beautiful that you're teaching that to your grandkids, because so many of us have been drilled that you have to be number one.
Yep.
But you don't really have to be number one to make an impact in the world. You don't have to be number one to transform lives. You don't have to be number one to live the life you're supposed to live. So I love that.
Yeah.
Steve,
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And my
Steve,
grandkids are like that. So go ahead right away.
I was going to say, to get a hold of you, it's steverizzo.com.
SteveRizzo.com. That's it right there. You can see www.steverizzo.com. If you want to order the book, you can go to the website and order it, but you can also go to yourinnerbob.com. You can go there.
Yourinnerbob.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can go to the website because all of that is there anyway.
It's all there? Okay.
Yeah, it's all there. It's all there. And when you click onto the part for the Bob book, you will see excerpts of the book that you could read certain paragraphs and certain chapters. And there are quite a few videos you can watch on the message of Bob. So,
Awesome.
yeah. Yeah.
I really enjoyed today, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy, busy, busy schedule, because you are out there making such a big difference. But I want to ask, do you have one more thing that you want to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, we touched upon this already, but live in the moment. That's the only place you can live. You cannot allow the past failures, and you're not even aware that you're doing it. Past mistakes to come up to the forefront and keep you from doing what it is that you want to do with your life. Because that, as Bob mentions in the book, the ego, the big mouth inside your head, that's the culprit. That's the inner Bernie. That's the voice that's saying, here's my point. So many people set out to achieve their goal. They put money into it. They got backing and everything's going good. And all of a sudden, they hit a wall. It's a challenge. And it could be a really big challenge. Then they start with that internal negative dialogue. Here we go again. I knew this was going to happen. Every time I try to do something, it never works. Everybody else has what I want. Every time I go 2 steps up, I go 5 steps back. What am I thinking? Every time I tried to do something, I should have learned from what happened to me in the past, but no, I'm doing it again. Some people call this negative self-talk. I call it self-curse talk, because you're casting a spell on your life. And if there's anything that's going to keep you from fulfilling your dreams, from leading the successful, happy life that you want, it is number one, because of self-curse talk. If there's anything that's going to keep you from enjoying yourself during the process of whatever it is you're trying to achieve, it's because of self-curse talk. You literally have to think about what you're thinking day in and day out, because those negative thoughts are coming from something that happened in the past. They have to be coming from somewhere. They can't come from the future. They're not coming from the moment. They came from the past. And you have to acknowledge that, because it happens on such an unconscious level. Your subconscious runs 97% of your life. I call the subconscious the genie of your soul. Whatever it's spewing out to you or you say to it, it will revert back. In other words, if you're saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, every time I try to do something, the genie of your soul will go, you're right. Your wish is my command. And keep talking like this, because you're making a bad situation worse than what it has to be. And that's what happens to you. And that's what stops people from moving forward, is that negative inertia, that negative thinking that comes from past experiences, that they're not even aware of what they're saying. They allow those experiences to be the determining factors to the choices they make. That's what separates those who succeed from those who consistently fail.
Awesome. Oh, so much wisdom from you, Steve. And I'm so glad that you answered the calling. I'm so glad you followed uh, what was really bringing you towards something even bigger than being famous, although you are famous. So I don't, you know, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, sure. Okay.
and you know what? You never know. There still may be a movie made about you. You're not dead yet. So,
Da, 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 da. That's a good point. That's a good point. I like that saying. I like that. You know
yeah,
what? That's a great title for a chapter.
you're not dead
Ooh,
yet.
it's a
Yeah.
great title for a book, isn't it? You're not
Yes.
dead yet.
You're not
Yeah.
dead yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
And the subtitle could be "Unless You Think You Are."
there you go. That's look
Ooh,
at that. Just
wow. See?
all these amazing ideas coming out
Yeah.
already. So absolutely, that would be a great catchy title for sure.
You're
Write
not
it
dead.
down. Write
You're
it
not
down.
dead yet. You're not.
So yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being an
My
American dream
pleasure.
maker. You are making the dream come true for so many people, because part of that pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness is absolutely being your better self, being the better version of yourself, and always moving forward, always looking to do something even better and bigger. Because I think you're right. Don't sit in your comfort zone. I think even when you start getting comfortable,
Yep.
get uncomfortable.
Yep. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with comfort and relaxing and giving yourself a break. But inside, if there's something within you that needs to be unleashed and you're stifling it. It will hurt you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Those are all called The Four Cylinders of Life, which is another book I'm working on. My God, can't do all this. Four Cylinders of Life. And whenever one of those cylinders are out of sync, it will eventually affect the other four. And before you know it, your life just falls apart. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, well, like I said, we could go on all day, because I know you have some amazing stories and amazing wisdom to share. But you guys get a hold of Steve Rizzo for sure. Book him for your speaking events. Get the books that he's written, Conversations with Bob. It will be life changing. You guys will not regret any of that
Yeah.
purchasing. So it
And
won't sit on the shelf, get collecting dust.
that's
There's
what
a
I'm saying. All I ask is when you read the book, just write a review on Amazon. It goes a long way. It really does.
Yes, absolutely. Write a review. Always, and that's a good point. When we are helping businesses, writing reviews makes such a huge difference, even if it's just a one-liner,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you read the reviews I have now for this book, they're off the charts. I mean, they're really, whew, really cool. But anyway, you are excellent at what you do. You really are. And especially for the short amount of time you've been doing it, you are so good. And I wish you the best.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the encouragement so much. So we'll just say goodbye for now,
Oh,
but I'll
yeah.
talk to you soon.
Yes, you
So
will. You take care.
hang in there. Thanks, you guys, again for tuning in. And please absolutely share this out. Steve, you can see, was amazing. So when you're watching this on the replay, please go ahead and get this shared out. What a wonderful message. Get the books, get a hold of Steve, and have a wonderful weekend, you all. And be blessed, be fruitful, multiply, be prosperous. Talk to you later.